The morning sun cast long shadows across New Haven Colony as children ran through the streets, their laughter echoing between the simple metal buildings. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the security station watching the kids play before school started. He smiled at the sight. After 15 years of military service, nothing made him happier than seeing children safe and free. Dr. Lisa Carter hurried past the playground, her medical bag in one hand and a stack of teaching materials in the other. She served as both the colony's doctor and the head teacher at the school. The children loved her and she loved them back like they were her own. Today she planned to teach them about Earth's history and the stars above their heads. New Haven was a small place home to just over 10,000 people. Most were farmers, miners, and their families who had come to this distant world looking for a better life. The planet had good soil, clean water, and beautiful sunsets that painted the sky purple and gold each evening. The colonists had built their town in a valley surrounded by gentle hills, with the school and medical center at the heart of everything. Captain Morrison's garrison was small, just 50 soldiers with basic weapons and 2 old patrol ships. They had never faced a real threat. Pirates sometimes passed through the system, but they usually left peaceful colonies alone. The captain's biggest worry was usually settling disputes between neighbors or helping rescue someone whose vehicle had broken down in the wilderness. That morning, Morrison received a message that changed everything. The communication came from Admiral Frank Turner at Earth Defense Command. The Admiral's face was serious as he spoke from the screen in Morrison's office. "Jake, we're getting reports of alien ships moving through your sector. A species called the Zephyrians. They've been attacking human colonies and demanding surrender. We don't know much about them yet, but what we do know isn't good." Morrison felt his stomach tighten. "How long do we have, sir?" "Unknown. Maybe hours, maybe days. Do what you can to prepare. But Jake?" The Admiral paused. "If they have a large force, don't try to be a hero. Protect the civilians. That's an order." The captain immediately called his officers together. Lieutenant Amy Foster, his second in command, listened carefully as he explained the situation. Sergeant Tony Brooks, who led the colony's patrol teams, started making plans to move people to safer locations. They had practiced emergency drills before, but everyone knew their small force could not stop a real military attack. Word spread quickly through the colony. Parents hurried to collect their children from school, but Dr. Carter convinced many to let the kids stay. The school building was one of the strongest in the colony, built to withstand the planet's occasional storms. She thought the children would be safer there than scattered across the settlement. By afternoon, nearly 800 children had gathered in the school. They ranged from tiny 5-year-olds to teenagers almost ready for college. Dr. Carter and her teaching staff tried to keep them calm by organizing games and telling stories. The older kids helped watch the younger ones, sensing that something serious was happening even though the adults tried to act normal. Captain Morrison stood in the school's main hallway, looking at all the young faces. 7-year-old Billy Martinez tugged on his uniform sleeve. "Captain Jake, are the bad aliens really coming?" the boy asked with wide, worried eyes. Morrison knelt down to Billy's level. "Don't worry, son. We're going to keep you safe. That's a promise." The attack came just before sunset. The alien ships appeared in the sky like dark clouds, blocking out the purple and gold colors the colonists loved so much. There were dozens of them, sleek and deadly, with weapons that glowed red in the growing darkness. Captain Morrison's patrol ships lasted less than 10 minutes. The aliens shot them down with contempt as if swatting flies. The ground defenses managed to damage one enemy ship before the alien weapons reduced the security station to burning metal and concrete. The creatures that emerged from the ships were unlike anything humans had ever seen. They stood 7 feet tall with gray, scaly skin and yellow eyes that showed no emotion. They moved like soldiers, organized and efficient, carrying weapons that could cut through steel walls. The colonists would later learn these were called Scarith, the warrior caste of the Zephyrian hegemony. Morrison gathered his remaining soldiers at the school. They had maybe 20 men left, armed with rifles that seemed like toys compared to alien weapons. He knew they could not win, but he would not abandon the children. The Scarith commander, a massive creature with silver markings on his scales, studied the human settlement through his helmet display. Commander Vextar had led attacks on 17 worlds in the past year. This was just another primitive species that needed to learn their place in the galactic order. Destroy all resistance, Vextar ordered his troops. Leave no future threats. His soldiers moved through New Haven like a plague. They killed anyone who tried to fight back and herded the rest into groups. When the Scarith reached the school, they found Captain Morrison and his men waiting at the front entrance. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," Morrison announced, his voice steady despite his fear. "These are civilians, children. Under galactic law, they must be protected." Vextar looked at the human through his weapon sight. "Your species has no rights under galactic law. You have not proven worthy of protection." The battle at the school lasted 30 minutes. Morrison's soldiers fought like lions, knowing they were buying time for nothing, except the hope that some children might escape. They died one by one, their blood staining the school's front steps. Captain Morrison was the last to fall, taking 3 Scarith with him as he detonated a grenade. His final words, heard by the children hiding inside, were, "Remember Earth. Remember you are human." Dr. Carter gathered the children in the main gymnasium as alien weapons burned through the school's walls. She tried to keep them calm, leading them in songs and stories even as the sounds of battle grew closer. Many of the older students helped the younger ones, showing courage that would have made their parents proud. When the Scarith finally broke through, they found 800 children and 20 teachers huddled together in the center of the gym. Dr. Carter stepped forward, her arms spread wide as if she could shield all of them. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "They're just children. They can't hurt anyone." Commander Vextar studied the small humans. His orders were clear. These young ones would grow up to be soldiers, workers, breeders. They would strengthen the human species and make them harder to control. Better to end the threat now. "Execute them all," he commanded. What happened next would haunt the galaxy for generations to come. The Scarith soldiers raised their weapons and began firing into the crowd of children. Dr. Carter died first, her body falling across little Billy Martinez as she tried to protect him. The screams filled the air for only a few moments before silence fell across the gymnasium. The entire massacre was recorded by the aliens' own equipment, transmitted back to their command ships as proof of victory. But the colony's quantum communication array remained active, hidden in the basement of a building the aliens had not yet destroyed. The horrific footage traveled across space at light speed, reaching Earth just as the sun rose over the blue world where humanity had been born. 800 children died in 20 minutes. Their only crime had been living on a world that aliens wanted to control. Admiral Frank Turner was drinking his morning coffee when the transmission from New Haven arrived at Earth Defense Command. He had been expecting a routine report about colony security, maybe some news about crop yields or mining operations. Instead, he watched in horror as the screen filled with images that would change everything. The footage was shaky and filled with static, but clear enough to see what had happened. Captain Morrison's final stand. Dr. Carter trying to protect the children. The Scarith soldiers walking through the gymnasium, stepping over small bodies without a second glance. 800 children dead in 20 minutes. Turner's coffee cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor. Around him, other officers stopped what they were doing as the terrible images played on screens throughout the command center. The sound of alien weapons mixed with children's screams echoed through the room until someone finally turned off the audio. "Sir," whispered Lieutenant Colonel Maya Thompson, Turner's intelligence chief. "The transmission is going out to every human colony, every news station, every government building." Turner knew what that meant. Within hours, billions of people would see what had happened to the children of New Haven. The reaction would be unlike anything in human history. On Earth, the footage reached the major cities just as people were starting their day. In New York, office workers stopped and stared at public screens showing the massacre. In London, mothers walking their children to school broke down crying as they watched Dr. Carter die trying to protect her students. In Tokyo, Factory workers demanded their bosses turn on the news so they could see what everyone was talking about. President Kate Sullivan was in a meeting with trade representatives when her chief of staff burst into the room. General Chris Barnes, head of Earth's military forces, was right behind him. Both men looked like they had seen ghosts. "Madam President," Barnes said quietly, "you need to see this immediately." They watched the footage in silence. President Sullivan, a grandmother of 4, had to leave the room twice to compose herself. When the transmission ended, she sat in her chair for a long moment staring at the blank screen. "How many colonies do we have in that sector?" she asked. 17, Barnes replied. "All of them small, all lightly defended. If the aliens are moving systematically through the region, they could kill thousands more." Sullivan stood up, her face hard with determination. "Call an emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Every representative, every ambassador, every military commander. I want them all here in 6 hours." Around the world, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Protests erupted in every major city as people demanded action. Families whose children attended schools like the one at New Haven kept their kids home, unable to bear the thought of sending them into buildings that suddenly seemed vulnerable and unsafe. Dr. Alex Rodriguez was working late in his laboratory at the International Space Research Center when his daughter called him. She was crying so hard he could barely understand her words. "Dad, did you see the news, those children?" "They were just babies, Dad. How could anyone do that?" Rodriguez watched the footage on his computer screen, his hands shaking with rage. He was a peaceful man, a scientist who believed in solving problems through research and cooperation. But as he watched Billy Martinez cry for his mother in those final moments, something dark and cold settled in his chest. He walked to his private lab, where he had been working on theoretical quantum drive technology for the past 5 years. The math was complex, the engineering challenges seemed impossible, but Rodriguez had always enjoyed difficult problems. Now he had a reason to solve this one quickly. By morning, Rodriguez had called his entire research team to an emergency meeting. Dr. Helen Davis, his top physicist, arrived to find her boss surrounded by coffee cups and equations scribbled on every available surface. "Alex, what's wrong? You look terrible." "I'm going to solve faster than light travel," he said simply. "And I'm going to do it in 6 months, not 6 years." "That's impossible. The power requirements alone would need." "Then we'll build bigger reactors. We'll strip mine the asteroid belt if we have to." Rodriguez's voice was calm, but his eyes burned with purpose. "Those children died because we couldn't get help to them fast enough. That's never going to happen again." President Sullivan's address to the United Earth Assembly was broadcast live to every human world. She stood at the podium looking out at representatives from dozens of colonies, military officers, and world leaders. Behind her, a simple image filled the screen. The school at New Haven before the attack, with children playing in the yard. "Yesterday, we learned that there are monsters in the galaxy," she began. "Creatures that look at human children and see nothing but targets to be eliminated. They killed 800 innocents and broadcast their crime as if it were something to be proud of." The assembly hall was completely quiet. Some representatives were crying openly. "I am here today to announce that the United Earth government formally declares war on the Zephyrian hegemony," Sullivan continued. "Every shipyard, every factory, every research facility on Earth and in our colonies will be converted to military production. We will build the largest fleet in human history. We will develop weapons and ships that can cross the galaxy in days instead of months." General Barnes stepped forward to outline the mobilization plan. Universal conscription would begin immediately. Every man and woman between the ages of 18 and 40 would serve in some capacity. The asteroid mining operations would be expanded tenfold to provide raw materials. Luna's factories would work round the clock producing weapons and ship components. "We are not just fighting for revenge," Barnes explained. "We are fighting to ensure that no alien species ever again looks at human children and sees acceptable casualties." Captain Ryan Miller was testing a new patrol ship design. When the orders came through, all experimental programs were to be accelerated immediately. His prototype vessel, equipped with new shield generators and improved weapons, would become the template for humanity's new war fleet. Miller had served 10 years in the Earth Defense Force, mostly patrolling the outer colonies and dealing with pirates. He was a good pilot, but he had never thought of himself as a warrior. That changed when he saw the footage from New Haven. "Sir," his co-pilot asked as they ran tests on the ship's new systems, "do you really think we can beat them? The aliens have technology we don't understand, ships we've never seen before." Miller checked his weapon systems display. The new plasma cannons could punch through 3 feet of steel armor. The railguns could fire projectiles at nearly light speed. Human engineering had advanced more in the past month than in the previous decade. "Lieutenant," Miller said quietly, "they just taught us something very important about themselves. They think killing children makes them strong. That tells me everything I need to know about how this war is going to end." In the shipyards orbiting Earth, the first of the new Retribution-class heavy cruisers was taking shape. The ship was longer than 3 city blocks and carried enough firepower to level a small city. Its hull was painted black, with the names of the New Haven children written in gold letters along the sides. Maya Thompson worked 18-hour days analyzing every piece of data they could gather about Zephyrian military tactics. The enemy relied on overwhelming force and intimidation, but their formations were predictable. They expected their opponents to fight like they did, with traditional ship-to-ship combat and linear battle plans. "They're used to fighting species that think like them," Thompson explained to her intelligence team. "But humans don't fight fair when our children are threatened. We fight to win, whatever it takes." The transformation of human civilization happened with stunning speed. Peaceful research stations became weapons laboratories. Merchant ships were converted into troop transports. Children who were too young to fight collected scrap metal for the war effort, their faces grim with purpose beyond their years. Dr. Rodriguez's breakthrough came exactly 6 months after New Haven. His quantum drive could move a ship across the galaxy in less than a week. The first test flight was successful, and within days the new engines were being installed in every ship in the growing human fleet. As the first warships prepared to leave Earth's orbit, President Sullivan broadcast a final message to the galaxy. It was simple, direct, and heard by every species capable of receiving radio transmissions. "To the Zephyrian hegemony and any others who think human children are acceptable targets, we are coming. We do not forgive. We do not forget. You wanted to teach us about galactic law. Now we will teach you about human justice." The message was transmitted in 47 different alien languages, ensuring that every species in known space would understand exactly what humanity intended to do. 6 months after the massacre at New Haven, Admiral Frank Turner stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching as the largest fleet in human history prepared for its first strike. 200 ships hung in space around Earth, their black hulls reflecting the light of the sun. Each ship carried the names of the murdered children painted in gold letters along their sides. Turner had aged 10 years in the past 6 months. The images from New Haven haunted his dreams, and he carried the weight of humanity's anger on his shoulders. But today that anger would finally have a target. "All ships report ready, sir," said Captain Ryan Miller from his position at the communications station. Miller now commanded one of the new Retribution-class cruisers, the UES New Haven's Promise. His ship was among the fastest in the fleet, equipped with Dr. Rodriguez's quantum drive technology. "Target confirmed, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Colonel Maya Thompson from the intelligence station. "Kepler Station is the primary military command center for this sector. Commander Vextar is stationed there, along with the ships that attacked our colonies." Turner nodded grimly. Vextar, the alien who had personally ordered the execution of 800 children, would be the first to face human justice. The Zephyrian commander had been promoted after New Haven, celebrated by his people as a hero for his efficient elimination of future threats. "All ships, this is Admiral Turner," he announced over the fleet communication system. "Today, we begin to show the galaxy what happens when someone hurts human children. Remember New Haven. Remember Billy Martinez and all the others. Make them pay." The quantum jump to Kepler Station took 4 days. a journey that would have taken months with old technology. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the system, their arrival completely undetected by Zephyrian sensors. Commander, Vextar was reviewing attack plans for 3 more human colonies when his sensors officer reported multiple contacts approaching the station. The reptilian commander studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The human ships moved unlike anything in his military experience. "They are not maintaining formation," hissed his tactical officer. "Their approach patterns make no sense." Vextar had fought dozens of space battles against various species. Everyone followed the same basic rules: form battle lines, exchange fire at maximum range, use superior numbers or firepower to win. But the human ships scattered like leaves in the wind, each one taking a different path toward the station. "Perhaps their commanders are incompetent," Vextar suggested. "These primitives have never faced real military opposition." He was about to learn how wrong he was. The first human attack came from above and below simultaneously. Captain Miller's IA ship dove toward the station's upper docking ports while 3 other cruisers attacked from beneath. Their weapons were unlike anything the Zephyrians had seen before. Plasma cannons that could melt through armor plating in seconds. Railguns that fired projectiles faster than most ships could move. But it was not just the weapons that shocked the alien defenders. It was the way humans fought. They ignored traditional tactics completely. Miller's ship flew so close to the station that he was scraping the hull, his guns firing into docking bays and weapon emplacements at point-blank range. "They fight like mad creatures," Vextar's tactical officer reported, his voice filled with fear. "They show no concern for their own safety. All ships concentrate fire on the largest human vessel," Vextar ordered. "Destroy their flagship, and the others will retreat." The Zephyrian ships turned their weapons on Admiral Turner's battleship. But the UES Vengeance was no longer where their sensors showed it to be. Turner had ordered his ship to use an old human tactic called hit and run. The massive battleship would appear, fire every weapon it had, then disappear behind asteroids or space debris before the enemy could respond. The battle lasted 3 hours, but it felt like 3 days to the Zephyrian defenders. Human ships attacked from impossible angles, using the station's own structure to hide from return fire. They coordinated their attacks with precision that seemed supernatural, as if every human captain could read the other's minds. Lieutenant Amy Foster led a boarding party onto the station through a hole Miller's ship had blasted in the outer hull. Her Marines moved through the corridors like ghosts, striking fast and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. They had studied every piece of intelligence about Zephyrian military installations, and they knew exactly where to hit. Foster's team reached the station's communication center, just as Vextar was trying to call for reinforcements. She kicked down the door and found the alien commander surrounded by his officers, all of them staring at tactical displays that showed their defenses collapsing. "Commander Vextar," Foster said calmly, her rifle aimed at his chest. "I am Lieutenant Amy Foster of the Earth Defense Force. You are under arrest for the murder of 800 human children." Vextar looked at the small human female with contempt. "Your species has no authority here. This is Zephyrian space." "Not anymore," Foster replied. She gestured to her Marines, who quickly secured the alien officers. "This is human space now. You just don't know it yet." The intelligence they captured at Kepler Station was beyond valuable. The Zephyrians had kept detailed records of every attack, every colony destroyed, every human killed. They had also recorded the locations of prison camps where human survivors were being held as slaves. Dr. Helen Davis, now serving as the fleet's xenobiologist, studied the captured data with growing excitement. The aliens had made detailed notes about human psychology and behavior, but their conclusions were completely wrong. "They think we are weak because we care about our children," Davis explained to Admiral Turner. "They believe that emotional attachment makes us vulnerable. They have no idea that it actually makes us stronger." The data revealed the location of Camp Zerion, a massive prison facility holding over 5,000 human civilians from various colony attacks. Many were children who had been separated from their parents and forced to work in alien factories. Turner made the decision immediately. We go to Xerion next. Every human ship, every human soldier. We bring our people home. The attack on Camp Xerion was different from Kepler Station. This time, the humans had to be careful not to harm their own people. Captain Tony Brooks, now commanding a battalion of Marines, led the ground assault while Miller's ships provided cover from orbit. The Zephyrian guards at the prison had not expected a rescue attempt. They had been told that humans were weak, that they would never risk military resources to save a few civilians. They learned otherwise when Brooks' Marines came through the walls like an unstoppable force. The liberation took only 2 hours. The human prisoners, many of them thin and scarred from months of forced labor, could hardly believe they were being rescued. Children who had not seen another human adult since their colonies were destroyed ran crying into the arms of the Marines. Among the survivors was Dr. Margaret Stone, a xenobiologist who had been captured during the attack on Eden Colony. She had spent months studying her captors, learning their weaknesses and psychology. They are not as advanced as they pretend to be, Stone told Admiral Turner during the rescue. Their technology is impressive, but their thinking is rigid. They cannot adapt to new situations quickly. And Admiral, they are afraid of us now. Word of your victories is spreading through their military. They are starting to question whether humans are really the primitive species they thought we were. The news of human victories spread throughout the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians began to whisper about the humans who fought like demons to protect their young. Some began to wonder if it was possible to resist the alien empire. The insectoid Chithari sent a secret message to Admiral Turner through encrypted channels. Their species had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for over 50 years, their children taken to work in alien factories. They wanted to know if humans would help them fight back. Ambassador Rick Stone, President Sullivan's top diplomat, opened secret negotiations with several oppressed species. The aquatic Nereids, the crystalline Vortons, and even some rebel Zephyrian colonies began reaching out to humanity. We are not just fighting a war, Stone reported to Earth. We are starting a revolution. Every species that has suffered under Zephyrian rule wants to join us. But Turner knew the real war was just beginning. The aliens would not give up easily, and they would soon learn to adapt to human tactics. The fleet prepared for its next target, the Zephyrian home system itself. As the human ships jumped back into hyperspace, each vessel carried a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. It was transmitted in every known alien language, so there could be no misunderstanding. For New Haven, for Billy Martinez, for every human child who died screaming while you watched, we are coming for you, all of you. The message reached Zephyr Prime 3 days later. For the first time in their history, the masters of the galaxy felt what their victims had always known, true fear. 2 years after the massacre at New Haven, Admiral Frank Turner stood before the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 500 human ships surrounded him in the space near Zephyr Prime, the capital world of the alien empire that had dared to murder human children. The fleet was no longer just human. Chithari insect ships flew alongside human cruisers, their weapon systems modified with human technology. Nereid water ships, designed for underwater combat, had been adapted for space warfare. Even some Zephyrian rebels had joined the alliance, their ships painted with human colors to show their allegiance. All ship commanders, this is Admiral Turner, he announced over the communication system. Today we finish what they started at, New Haven. Today we show the galaxy that those who harm children will face justice no matter how powerful they think they are. On the bridge of the UES New Haven's Fury, Captain Ryan Miller checked his weapon systems one final time. His ship was now a massive dreadnought, 3 times larger than the cruiser he had commanded at Kepler Station. The names of all 800 murdered children were engraved on the ship's main guns. Miller had become something of a legend among human forces. His tactics had been studied and copied throughout the fleet. He fought with a calculated fury that terrified alien commanders, always striking where they least expected, always finding new ways to make superior numbers meaningless. Down on Zephyr Prime, Commander Vextar prepared for his final battle. The alien who had ordered the execution of human children now commanded the planet's defenses from a bunker deep beneath the capital city. Around him, his officers worked frantically at control stations, trying to coordinate the defense of their homeworld. Vextar had learned to respect human military capability over the past 2 years. His forces had been defeated at every major engagement. Human tactics were unlike anything in his experience. They fought with an intensity that seemed to come from somewhere beyond normal military training. "Sir, the human fleet is beginning their approach," reported his tactical officer. "They are using the same scattered formation that worked at Kepler Station." "I know," Vextar hissed, "but this time we are ready for them. Every defense platform, every orbital cannon, every fighter squadron is prepared. We will make them pay for every meter of space they advance." The battle for Zephyr Prime began at dawn, when the planet's 3 suns painted the sky in shades of red and gold. The Zephyrian defenses were impressive. Massive orbital weapons platforms that could destroy a battleship with a single shot, fighter squadrons numbering in the thousands, and planetary shields that could stop most attacks. But the humans had learned much in 2 years of war. They no longer relied only on superior technology or overwhelming force. They had developed something more dangerous: perfect coordination between different species, each contributing their unique strengths to the battle. The Chitauri fighters, small and fast, swarmed around the orbital platforms like angry insects. Their job was not to destroy the weapons, but to confuse the targeting systems long enough for the heavy human ships to get close. The Nereid vessels, designed for deep ocean pressure, could withstand hits that would cripple other ships, allowing them to get close to the platforms and plant explosive charges. Captain Miller led the main assault on the largest orbital platform. His ship dove through a storm of enemy fire, its hull glowing red from the heat of alien weapons. But Miller had learned something important about Zephyrian psychology. They expected their enemies to retreat when faced with overwhelming firepower. Humans did not retreat when their children had been murdered. The UES New Haven's Fury smashed through the platform's outer defenses and landed on the structure's surface. Miller's Marines, led by Colonel Tony Brooks, poured out of the ship and began fighting their way through the alien installation. They had one goal: capture the platform's control center and turn its weapons against the planet below. Brooks had been at New Haven during the massacre. He had been off duty that day, visiting his sister's family in the colony. He had returned to find his 3-year-old nephew among the dead children in the school gymnasium. The memory of that small body had driven him through 2 years of the most brutal warfare in galactic history. "Remember what they did to the children," Brooks told his Marines as they fought through the platform's corridors. "Remember why we are here." The fighting was fierce but brief. Zephyrian soldiers, used to fighting enemies who feared death, could not understand humans who seemed to welcome it if it meant advancing their mission. The platform fell within 3 hours, its massive guns turning to fire on other Zephyrian defenses. Lieutenant Amy Foster, now a colonel, led the assault on the planet's surface. Her forces landed in the capital city while the orbital battle raged overhead. Her mission was to capture the government centers and, most importantly, to find the Zephyrian High Command. The aliens had prepared for a ground invasion, but they had prepared for conventional warfare. Foster's troops moved through the city like water, flowing around strong points and attacking from unexpected directions. They had studied urban warfare for 2 years, learning from every battle, adapting to every enemy tactic. The human soldiers were no longer the same species that had been surprised at New Haven. They had been forged in the fire of righteous anger, trained by the best military minds Earth could produce, and motivated by images that would never leave their memories. Dr. Helen Davis, now serving as a military advisor, accompanied Foster's assault team. She had spent 2 years studying Zephyrian psychology and culture, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. What she had found was both disturbing and useful. "They cannot understand why we fight so hard for our young," Davis explained to Foster as they advanced through the city. "In their culture, only the strongest offspring survive. They cannot comprehend the human concept of protecting the innocent. That is why they keep making the same tactical mistakes." The final confrontation came in the underground bunker where Vextar had made his last stand. Foster's team fought their way through automated defenses and elite Zephyrian guards, leaving a trail of alien bodies in their wake. When they finally reached the command center, they found Vextar and his remaining officers waiting for them. The alien commander looked older than he had 2 years ago. The stress of constant defeat had taken its toll on him, and for the first time in his military career, he faced an enemy he could not defeat through superior firepower. "So you have come for your revenge," Vextar said as Foster's soldiers surrounded him. "Kill me and be done with it." Foster studied the alien who had personally overseen the murder of 800 children. She thought of Billy Martinez, crying for his mother in those final moments. She thought of Dr. Carter, dying as she tried to protect her students. She thought of Captain Morrison, making his last stand at the school entrance. "No," Foster said quietly. "We are not like you. We believe in justice, not revenge. You will stand trial for what you did to those children. You will face the families of your victims. You will answer for every life you took." The trial of the Zephyrian High Command lasted 6 months and was broadcast throughout the galaxy. Representatives from every species that had suffered under Zephyrian rule gave testimony. The evidence was overwhelming: centuries of genocide, slavery, and brutality committed by the alien empire. But it was the testimony of the New Haven survivors that had the greatest impact. Dr. Stone, rescued from Camp Zerion, described watching alien soldiers execute children who had never harmed anyone. Foster read the names of all 800 victims, their ages, their dreams, their families. The sentences were swift and final. The leaders who had authorized the massacre were executed. Lower-ranking officers were imprisoned for life. Commander Vextar, who had personally ordered the killing of children, faced the same fate he had given to the innocents of New Haven. The Zephyrian Empire was dissolved, its territory divided among the species it had oppressed. The capital city was renamed New Haven, and a monument was erected where the government buildings had stood. The monument bore the names of every human child who had died in the war, with Billy Martinez's name at the top. Admiral Turner stood before the monument on the first anniversary of the victory. Around him, children from dozens of different species played in the park that had been built where the Zephyrian military headquarters once stood. Human children, Chitauri younglings, Nereid spawn, and even young Zephyrians who had been born. After the war, President Kate Sullivan joined him, her hair now completely gray from the stress of leading humanity through its darkest and most triumphant period. "Was it worth it?" she asked quietly. "All the death, all the destruction, all the years of war?" Turner watched a human girl, about 7 years old, playing with a young Chitauri. The insect child was teaching the human how to make complex patterns with colored stones, while the human showed her alien friend how to braid flower stems into chains. "Ask me that question in 20 years, Turner said. "When these children grow up in a galaxy where species protect each other instead of preying on the weak. When no child of any species has to fear soldiers who see them as acceptable casualties." The old admiral walked away, leaving the children to their games. Behind him, the monument caught the light of Zephyr Primes.